things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson with Reality Shifters and the International Mandela Effect Conference, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Hello. Introducing lasers. Hello.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation, don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness, this is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, and tonight we're talking about Yule and the ghost of Christmas past. What is Yule? Why do we celebrate Christmas in the ways that we do? Why do we follow the small, little, intricate traditions that we just do without thinking about every single year? We're going to dig into those little, small elements of Christmas and see where a lot of this stuff comes from. So be ready to learn a lot of stuff tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, on the Dark Wolf's Den Show, exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio. But first, today in history. And I'm kind of upset. I couldn't really find a Today in History to match the holiday theme, but we came pretty close, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out. On this day in 1847, Frederick Douglass publishes the first issue of his newspaper called the North Star. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And that is today's Today in History. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just a little bit bummed out we couldn't make that more of a holiday themed Today in History, but we got a lot more shows to go, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe we are 6 months in right now, and we're going into episode 40 today? That is amazing to me, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate every last one of you being here, because without you guys, we could not do it. It is absolutely amazing to me to be able to do these shows, and not even that, but to be able to talk about this holiday season, right? I love the holiday season. The holiday season is one of the best times of the year. There's such a magic in the air. There's such a wonderful festivity about it, but it's also quite hectic, isn't it? A lot of running around doing stuff, a lot of traditional things that go on Christmas. And that's one thing I kind of want to do this year, is I want to go through the year looking at go through the season, I should say, looking through the traditional Christmas celebrations and, you know, kind of relive the nostalgia of our childhoods, if we can pull just even a little of that back, no matter what age group you are from. But ladies and gentlemen, with that said, let's get started at the beginning. Why do we celebrate the traditions of Christmas? I don't mean the reason for the season, or, you know, don't forget Jesus, or no. Why do we do the little traditional things that we do? Why do we set up poinsettias? Why do we eat candy canes? Why do we do so much? Why do we decorate a tree? What does the tree got to do with anything? Well, we're going to learn a lot tonight about all of this information, and a lot of it may really surprise you. And this is going to be a trip around the world and around history. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's take a look at the origins of these Christmas treasures, or these ghosts of Christmas past.
Let's start our wonderful adventure by looking at this traditional nativity scene with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus in the manger.
Well, absolutely. What better place to start than at the beginning, right? Jesus is the reason for the season. We need to start at the beginning of the story, at the Jesus birth, at the nativity. That makes sense to me.
For many people, the birth of Christ in that starlit, small, but famous Bethlehem stable is the reason why the holiday began in the first place and why we celebrate it today.
Of course it is. And, we've all heard, Jesus is the reason for the season and, all those cute slogans. Of course it's the birth of Jesus Christ that we celebrate every year at Christmas, right?
But this auspicious event is in fact a considerably later addition to the midwinter festivities that have been celebrated at this time of year, quite literally since man first walked upon the earth.
Yeah, it turns out that is not actually the origins of the celebration of Christmas, the Jesus story. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean no offense. It is a classic part of the Christmas lore, and we'll get more into that as we get in through the month. I assure you, we're not done with the Jesus story, but this goes back much, much further than the Jesus story. As the narrator said here, it goes back to the beginning of time as far as celebrating things like that, but the traditions of Christmas that we generally tend to follow today, to find those, we actually have to go back to a place that we started in yesterday. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, this weekend actually has an odd theme to it that even I did not plan in the beginning. And to find the traditions of the Christmas that we celebrate nowadays, we must go back to the Norse country and a festival that they used to celebrate called Yuletide, or just Yule by modern day terms.
Thousands of years ago in Denmark, Norway, Finland, Iceland and Sweden, more commonly known as Scandinavia, during the winter months when the sun would disappear for days on end, men would be sent to the snowy mountaintops to look for it. When the first golden rays broke the darkness, the men would return with the good news, and a magnificent festival would be held.
So the original Christmas festivals were held in honor of the returning of the sun to the sky after days of it being gone.
The great celebration centered upon the burning of a large Yule log, which was thought to have magical powers. And over time, this festival soon became known as Yuletide.
Yuletide, and we have the beginning of our topic tonight as we are talking about Yule and the ghost of Christmas past. And the Yule log was just that, a great, big, and sometimes absolutely humongous log that they would burn on a fire for as long as they could get the thing to burn. And like she just said, they believed that this log had magical abilities within it.
Throughout ancient Europe, the burning of the Yule log over the 12 days of Christmas was one of the most important customs of the season, bringing good fortune to the family for the following year.
So they burned this log in order to gain good luck and good blessings for the following year. That's pretty neat, but we're going to touch on a couple things real quick. So number one, we've got our log for our classic Christmas fireplace. So that's the beginning of that tradition, the Yule log that everybody burns. And you see them in the stores all the time, a Yule log, right? But nobody really knows what a Yule log is. Oh, it's just a log we burn at Christmas. Well, not really. It actually has a beginning. And they would burn these logs for 12 days. We hear the song The 12 Days of Christmas, but the 12 Days of Christmas actually comes back to burning these logs for a 12-day period during Yuletide.
This tradition continued right up until the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution forced the majority of the once rural population into the rapidly growing towns and cities.
And as the civilization and culture evolved, so did the celebrations.
Finding large Yule logs to burn in the countryside had never been a problem, but it wasn't so easy in the hustling, bustling city streets. And of course, with cramped living conditions, finding a hearth big enough to burn a Yule log was also rather difficult.
Because remember, as we mentioned a moment ago, these logs sometimes were very, very large. We're not talking a small tree stump. We're talking extremely large logs that these guys would burn.
However, not wanting to lose this old custom, the bakers and confectioners of France came up with a sweet, sticky chocolate delicacy.
And some of you may be thinking, yeah, I've heard of a Yule log, but I've not heard of it being a real log. The Yule log I know of is a dessert, right? And we're going to now get into another favorite part of the holiday for myself, of course, is a ravenous wolf, you know. And that is, of course, the food of the holidays, right? We love to eat around this season. I know I personally tend to gain a couple 20, 30 pounds around these seasons, right? Okay, maybe 5 or 10, but still, I gain quite a bit of weight during the holiday seasons, as I'm sure a lot of you do, because we do a lot of eating. And once again, where do the treats and the foods of Christmas have their origins? Well, the Yule log that we just spoke of that would burn for the 12 days of Christmas, or 12 days of Yuletide in this particular celebration, which would later on become Christmas, but you understand. The 12 days of Yuletide log, that actually has a connection into the food. Of course, the Yule log, the chocolate Yule log.
Known as a chocolate Yule log, this cake is much easier to manage than flaming tree trunks, although it's highly unlikely that it will last throughout the 12 days of Christmas.
Around me, I'm going to be honest, it's unlikely it's going to last 12 hours, let alone 12 days.
Nevertheless, we all still love a blazing fire at Christmas time, whether for roasting chestnuts or welcoming guests. And for those who live in warmer climates, you can even get films of a fire burning to screen on your television, just to create the festive atmosphere.
And yes, they really did create VHS tapes of a hearth burning for a number of hours, 8, 12 hours, whatever the case may be. This was a real thing, and yeah, I know that might sound a little weird to you guys, but on YouTube, there is tons upon tons upon tons of these hearths just burning. Some set to music, some just with the crackling sounds of the fire. And let me tell you, I love listening to those. The ones with the Christmas music. Or just pulling up the hearth. It just sets an ambiance in the room, right? You don't so much get the heat off of it, so that kind of stinks, but just the same, you get the beauty of the fire and that traditional feeling of being in front of that warm hearth in the holiday season. Especially when you got snow falling outside and you got the fire blazing in front of you. It really sets an ambiance, a mood, a real old-fashioned feeling to the holiday.
In the ancient world, it wasn't only the Scandinavians having plenty of winter fun. The early settlers of Britain had a few interesting ideas of their own. Surviving the cold winter months was no easy task, and storing up food during the better weather would literally mean the difference between life and death.
Of course, back then you couldn't go to Walmart or order off of Amazon, right? You're talking about a completely different world. And if you didn't have the stores for the season or for the winter time, then you may not have made it to the spring. This was literally a make or break life or death situation. And that's what's led to a lot of the foods of Christmas.
Halfway through winter, people would gather together and share what food they had in a great feast to cheer themselves up and help them survive until spring.
And most of our lives, that has been the tradition, is we come together each year for a big feast among other Christmas things that we do. But we have a big feast together and everybody's happy and celebratory and, everybody's having a great time. And it goes back, the feast, the Christmas feast, the coming together to share food and try to make everybody happy for this cold winter dark season, as it tends to be at times, then you've got these celebrations that stem way back into these being the early British settlers. And we still celebrate these today in a different way, of course, but in just the same way, we still come together and bring together food that we have together for a feast. The difference is it isn't life or death anymore, it's more of a choice, right?
Speaking of Christmas food, there's one festive tradition that's older than you might think. And looking at this rich, flaming Christmas pudding, or plum pudding as it's sometimes called, it's hard to believe that this very familiar seasonal treasure dates back to those ancient times.
And I've never had the firm pudding or the flaming pudding, and I'm not sure if this is the same as figgy pudding. I'm assuming it is, but this is a really interesting treat that once again has its roots in the ancient Britons that originally settled in the UK. But let's hear a little bit about this tasty treat of flaming pudding.
But don't get too excited just yet. It was a lumpy old bowl of oatmeal that started the proceedings.
Who here serves oatmeal at their Christmas dinner? I know I've never had oatmeal. Don't worry, more goes into this oatmeal. It's not just oatmeal. But this is going to be a interesting dessert. Hey, we're starting off with lumpy old oatmeal. Yummy.
As disgusting as this sounds, and looks for that matter, to the ancient folk of Britain, this was a rare midwinter treat that was created in homage to the gods. Set to bubble continuously, as each person passed by, they stirred the pot, and this act would bring good fortune for the year ahead.
And it's interesting because little things like that really does kind of bring the family together, brings together the group. It's something small as just continually stirring the oatmeal, one person after another, but it's enough to kind of a small bonding experience, right? You all have had a part in the making of this food. It's kind of a real love of cooking type deal, right? Love of being together and having something to do together. Plus, it'll bring you good luck. Hey, can't beat good luck.
With the passage of time, people made this concoction much more exciting by adding meat and fruit, and very gradually the Christmas pudding that we know and love began to take shape.
So the oatmeal and fruit doesn't sound too bad. I'm sure most of you would agree with that. I'm not sure how I feel about meat in my oatmeal with fruit. Now that said, I like bacon in my oatmeal, so that might not be too far off course after all.
Although quite early on they started to leave out the meat, which was probably a very good thing. Today, if you want to make your own Christmas pudding, it's traditional to create it with the whole family a couple of weeks after the end of Thanksgiving.
So here's a new Christmas tradition that you can start if you want to look up the recipe to this pudding, this firm pudding, that's it. I think it's called firm pudding or flaming pudding. If you want to look the recipe up, this is actually something you can do pretty simple, and it's something the whole family can get involved with doing. You can start a brand new Christmas tradition this year. So if you've already looked the recipe up of how much of what you need and how long you need to do it, here is the rest of the way to perform this particular tradition.
Just like ancient times, every member of the family should get to have a good stir, making a wish as they go.
However, you must be warned that this does come with a caveat. There's a specific way that you're supposed to stir the oatmeal for the good luck.
But be careful only to stir the pudding clockwise, because stirring it anti-clockwise, or widdershins in Old English, will bring bad luck.
So if you are interested in starting this tradition with your family, which sounds like a fun one to me, I'm not going to lie, you get to eat something at the end of it, so when is that ever not fun, right? But if you want to do this tradition, nevertheless, make sure that you stir the oatmeal clockwise for the good luck and not counterclockwise for the bad luck. I want to know why the entire world, or the ones that practice this, started all counterclockwise last year. Was that some kind of joke or something? I don't know that for a fact, but I mean, 2020, I mean, maybe that would explain why we had such craziness this year. Maybe everybody decided to stir their Christmas pudding backwards last year as a joke, right? If this was what happened, guys, I beg of you, don't do that anymore, please. This has been a weird year. But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, nevertheless, let's get back to this list of fun Christmas traditions.
In some houses in the United States and over in the UK, there'll be much more to the dark fruity plum pudding than meets the eye, because another more recent custom involves hiding small objects in the rich, tasty mixture.
And I love little things like this because this comes back to a chance, right? The chance of getting this little object on your plate. And there's a couple different objects that are inserted into this cake, or this pudding. So if you ever eat Christmas pudding, do be careful. Do you not choke on these objects, because there are 3 objects and they have very specific meanings if you get them. It comes back to that whole synchronicity, right? We all believe in synchronicity. And according to this belief system, the synchronicity comes when and if you end up with one of these pieces in your piece of pudding, then there's a meaning for the year coming ahead. For the piece that is found supposed to have a meaning on your life. And there's 3 pieces, like I said, and we're going to hear now what each of these pieces are and what they mean if you find them in your slice of pudding.
If you find a shiny coin in amongst the raisins, it means that you're likely to earn lots of money in the future.
It also means that I'm lucky to be alive and I'm a little bit richer, right? I'm a coin richer than I was before I took that bite, if I didn't choke on the coin, of course.
And if a ring tumbles onto your plate, then love and marriage is in the air for you.
I know some people that would actually lose their minds if that happened to them, so that would be really hilarious for some people I know that just aren't the marriage type, if you will. Somebody like that gets the ring. Could you imagine them freaking out, right? But there's one more symbol of a item in this pudding.
However, if you get a small thimble on your plate, you have a life of hard work ahead and no prospects for romance on the horizon.
I actually know people who would want to get the thimble over the ring, right? And of course, I would not be feeding this pudding to a child. Let's be clear here. I made the choke warning jokes for a reason. In all seriousness, I would be careful who I allowed to eat this Christmas pudding with these items lodged in them, right? But nevertheless, it is a very cute tradition, I gotta say. So if you want to do the Christmas pudding, make sure you have the ring, the coin, and the thimble to add to your pudding. And it does definitely mix up the holiday and get the conversation going, or keep the conversation going, right? Maybe you'll find out about a relationship someone was in that you had no idea, right? I mean, it really sparks conversation, and that's kind of one of the wonderful things about the holidays is we get to share and talk and converse in a way that we don't normally get to during the rest of the year, and usually with people that we don't get to see or hear from most of the rest of the year. So there you go, guys. If you want a new tradition, if you're looking for something new to start, or you just want to try something different and fun, there is Christmas pudding, and that comes from an ancient British tradition that would later become, of course, Christmas. And we're only getting started with these traditions. We've got so much more to go. Like, while we're on the topic of Christmas foods and holiday treats, there's one more, of course, the most well-known of the seasonal treats. Every year, tons and tons and tons of these things are sold and hung on trees and everywhere else they can be hung around the world. I am, of course, talking about the classic treat we know as the candy cane. But how did it get its origins? It actually may not be the origins that you think it is, including the reason that it has the red and white stripe, or even why it tastes like peppermint. I bet none of you know the reasons why these are. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't and who have been wondering why the candy cane is connected to Christmas, here we go.
A choir master at a large cathedral decided to give out delicious sugared treats in the shape of shepherd's crooks to the young children, so that they would keep quiet during a long Christmas nativity play.
Because giving a bunch of sugar to kids never ended badly at all. But no, seriously, that is a really neat idea, though. Try to distract them from being crazy and wild, and just give them some candy. Here, sit down and eat this. Here. But that actually would grow into a very well-known custom today.
When word got out about these sweets, people started to call them candy canes. But it wasn't until long after this tradition came to America that the decoration gained its famous red and white stripes and peppermint flavor.
And for those who are wondering, yes, there actually is symbolism in these stripes on the candy cane. The 3 small red stripes were added to the traditional candy to represent the scourging of Jesus by the Roman soldiers. And the large red stripe on the candy is a symbol of the blood that he shed on the cross. Sometimes a green stripe is also added as a reminder that Jesus is an everlasting gift from God, an evergreen, if you will. And that takes us right in to our next topic, and that is the plants of Christmas. There's actually a lot of wildlife and plant life that has to do with this holiday season. And where did the traditions of the different plants of Christmas come from? Of course, the most well-known being the tree. And we're going to learn a lot about our favorite holiday staple, if you will, our placeholder of the season, the Christmas tree. We're going to find a lot of information about that. Yeah, I bet you did not know, but nevertheless, we're going to get ahead of ourselves if I keep babbling. So, ladies and gentlemen, back to the narrator.
Our fondness for evergreen plants as decorations also dates way back in time. Waxy green holly leaves with shining red berries have always been a symbol of eternal life, and for centuries the bringing of the holly always heralded the start of the festive season. Holly is synonymous with beautiful Christmas wreaths, and we have the Romans to thank for this lovely tradition.
Here's something else that we do because, well, we just do it every year, right? How many of you hang a Christmas wreath every year around your house? Maybe on your door or on a wall or on the tree itself, maybe. How many of you hang a wreath up? Now, of you guys that said, yeah, I hang a wreath up, how many of you actually know where the wreath came from or the origins of that particular element of Christmas decoration? Anybody? Go ahead, put a 1 if you already know where the wreath came from. Go ahead, put a 2 if you don't know where it came from, and put a 3 if you have no idea what Christmas even is.
For their winter festival, they would give friends and family evergreen branches to wish them well for the future, and it's a tradition that has been continued and adapted for modern use.
And it's just that simple. It comes from giving the gift of evergreen branches for good luck in the next year. Wow, that's where the wreath comes from. Who would have known?
Today in the United States, most of us have stopped bringing holly inside the house, but we continue to hang holly wreaths on our doors to spread Christmas cheer. It's a lovely thought to give a Christmas wreath to loved ones, as tradition has it that only a wreath received as a gift will actually bring the good fortune it promises.
Which once again comes from the Roman tradition of giving the evergreen branches to someone else to give them the good luck.
And of course, wherever there's holly, there has to be mistletoe, perhaps one of the best-loved Christmas traditions of them all.
Do you guys hang mistletoe in the doorway around your house? I know that's a very well-loved holiday tradition, is the mistletoe and kissing under the mistletoe, of course. But again, where did this tradition come from? Why is mistletoe, and why do we hang it and kiss under the mistletoe? Has anybody seen the mistletoe? I've got some people I'd like to do some kissing on. I'm totally kidding there, maybe.
The mistletoe plant is shrouded in pagan mythology as a symbol of fertility, so its associations with Christmas kissing will hardly come as a great surprise to anyone.
And like most of the Christmas traditions we're gonna find, it is shrouded in pagan holidays. Of course, we're gonna get later on to the Christianity side of things and how that comes into play, but it all is shrouded in the origins of pagan belief systems.
However, there have been many influences on this very ancient tradition, ranging from the early Christians to Queen Victoria, who found that when it came to Christmas kissing, she was definitely not amused.
Hear ye, hear ye! By decree of the Queen, Christmas kissing is no longer allowed, for she is not amused.
After Christianity came to Britain and time passed, people started to decorate hoops with mistletoe, placing an effigy of baby Jesus in the centre. This kissing bough was then taken from house to house, and the Christians would greet each other with a chaste kiss under the hoop.
Told you we'd get to the Christian element of it. Did you know that? Did you know that the Christians used to put a manger scene together, if you will, and go house to house kissing each other? I definitely did not know that part.
Over the years, the Christ child and hoops were lost, but the mistletoe continued to be used in this greeting ritual. Just as the Christian symbolism disappeared from this tradition, eventually so did the purity, and the mistletoe's more pagan origins started to re-emerge. Kissing under the mistletoe became a very risque and boisterous affair, and it's said that the very prim and proper Queen Victoria set a new precedent.
I would even dare say today it's a little on the risque side. Would you guys agree?
Each time people kissed under the mistletoe, one of the waxy white berries had to be removed, and when the berries had all gone, the kissing was to stop.
Hear ye, hear ye! By new decree of the Queen, you can now kiss for only as many times as berries exist on the mistletoe bush. I repeat, you can only kiss as many times as there is berries, and you must remove a berry every time you kiss. This is by decree of the Queen. Thank you.
Although this is still considered to be proper mistletoe etiquette to this very day, most people have found a simple way to get around it. They just make sure that when they collect a mistletoe bough, it has plenty of berries on it. And a reserve bunch is a pretty good idea too.
And I know our buddy Seth Sullivan over there in the chat is from the South, and I personally, as you guys know, I told yesterday, I'm from Tennessee, down in the South, down southeast of the United States, and down there we have another tradition with the mistletoe. For those that don't know, mistletoe is a parasitic plant that grows on trees and actually feeds off of the tree, so we're actually doing a favor to the tree by removing mistletoe, believe it or not, guys. But in the South, we have a tradition. You see, we go out and we take a rifle and we shoot the mistletoe out of the top of the tree and bring it home and hang it up to kiss our love under. That is the tradition of the mistletoe in the South. So, you know, it comes down to the whole hunting, you know, going back to the hunting and gathering and all that, and hunting the mistletoe and shooting it out of the tree, being the marksman enough to shoot it out of the tree and bring it home. And it's just another little fun tradition that Southerners kind of added on to the whole tradition of the mistletoe. So if you're from the southeast of the United States, Southerners, you know what I'm talking about down there. The rest of you, you may have just learned something about the South.
Ancient midwinter festivals and pagan rituals were all very well, but as Christianity started to spread throughout the Western world, missionaries faced a very tough job indeed. People liked their traditions just the way they were, and the arrival of a more religious celebration was no substitute for feasting and merrymaking. Consequently, the Christians soon realized that they would have to fall in line with the old ways if they wanted to have their message heard. This is why we celebrate Christmas on the 25th of December.
And here is where we start to see the formation of what we consider today to be Christmas. The Christians coming in, what we consider today as a Christmas celebration, is based on a lot of Christian ideals, right? That's no question to that. But the way they got involved and mixed into these pagan religions is how Christmas and what we celebrate every year was actually born.
Historically, there's no evidence to suggest that Jesus was actually born on this day, but choosing the time of the old midwinter feasts for the festivities certainly helped the new ideas to be accepted, and there were other instances where the Christians worked with popular culture to change the way of the world.
And once again, like I said, this is where we're going to start to see the formation of the modern version of what we celebrate as Christmas. And one thing that we celebrate, sticking with the plant theme, is the tree, right? Where did the tree come from? How does the tree mix into Christian belief systems? I know a lot of you are thinking you know the answer, but let's see if you are right.
Tree worship had always played an important role in the lives of ancient folk, most notably in Germany, especially during the midwinter festivals. But in those times, the tall oak trees were the honoured species.
And there's something that I'm willing to bet that a lot of you did not know, that the original tree worship actually was not of the evergreen tree, but of the oak tree.
When the leaves fell from the trees in winter, simple country people believed that the spirits that lived in the trees and blessed their families had run away. To tempt the good spirits to return, the people would cover the trees with brightly coloured scraps of cloth and strings of coloured pebbles. Naturally, when spring returned and the leaves came back, they thought their brilliant early form of tree decorating had worked. When they eventually found out the real reason why the leaves returned, it didn't matter. They simply carried on decorating the bare winter trees, just as they had always done.
Yet another ghost of Christmas past, a story that we don't normally get to hear when the holiday season comes around. Again, so many things we do just because they're tradition, just because, well, we do them every year, we always have, but why? Where did they start? What happened in the beginning? And this is no different. Why do you decorate the tree? Every year we pull the tree out, and a lot of times we'll pull the family together and we'll hang these cute little baubles on the tree and just really decorate them up. And I seen a really neat baby Yoda tree the other day. You know, there's so much that can be done with these trees, and we decorate them so many different ways. But why? Why do we decorate the tree? What has that got to do with anything? Well, apparently it comes from the idea that the good spirits would leave the tree. And of course, like I said, they finally learned the real reason, and they just kept on doing it because they enjoy doing it. And that is where we get the idea and the tradition of decorating the Christmas tree. How many of you knew that it came from old world beliefs of the good spirits leaving the trees? So they would decorate them to try to bring them back. Now we decorate them every year because we want to outdo our neighbor who's got a really pretty tree, and we want to make sure ours is a little prettier, right? That's what it's pretty much come to in this day and age. We've come from spirits keeping the trees alive to the spirit of I'm better being well and alive, right? A spirit that I hope some of us can kind of get rid of this holiday season and focus on the original ideas of love and just being together and enjoying and helping each other survive through the winter time, But I'm getting off on a soapbox here, so nevertheless, we need to get back to our topic. That, ladies and gentlemen, was why you decorate a tree every year. But that, of course, was pagan beliefs, right? How did the Christians play into this? Because we know even in today's world, Christians gladly put a tree up in their home every year. So how did the Christians work this into their belief system and celebration systems?
However, when the early missionaries turned their attention to this distinctly pagan custom, they agreed that tree worshipping and decorating could continue, but only if the honoured species became the evergreen pine tree.
And this may not have been a decision made for the reason that you think. Of course, a lot of us think evergreen, that must represent Jesus and, ever living and long life and, eternal life and immortality. And the evergreen tree is evergreen. It's always alive, But actually, that's not the reason they chose the evergreen. Check this out.
Because of its triangular shape, was said to represent the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
That's right. It being evergreen had nothing to do with the being always alive or the type of tree that it was. It was because of the shape of the tree, and it formed the triangle that formed the Trinity. Is that not so very interesting, right? How many of you knew that before? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you did, and put a 2 in the chat room if that's new information to you.
With the passage of time, people started to bring the trees indoors to decorate them. But it was thanks to Queen Victoria in London that the Christmas tree tradition really became a worldwide phenomenon.
Now, wait a minute. What did Queen Victoria have to do with making the Christmas tree a worldwide thing, a natural Christmas celebration around the world? How did the Queen create or have I wouldn't even say create, have a hand in making this a celebrated tradition worldwide?
Looking at this portrait of Queen Victoria as an old lady, it's hard to imagine that she was once a vibrant young woman, madly in love with her husband, the German Prince Albert, who brought his nation's Christmas tradition of tree dressing with him to Britain. As a surprise for his wife and young children, he arranged for a decorated Christmas tree to be brought into the palace, which thrilled and delighted everyone who saw it. Newspapers of the day printed pictures of the royal family gathered around the Christmas tree, and where the Queen led, the rest of the population followed, not only in England, but also all over the world.
And still today, we have people that follow celebrities and will follow everything they do and copy it to be like the celebrities or like the royals, of course, in this case. And that's so awesome that just by bringing it into the palace, they made it something that everybody wanted to do, and everybody wants to be like royalty and be like the Queen, and you too can have a Christmas tree and you too can be like royalty. That's a pretty good tagline, I gotta say, but just the same, it's really neat that it comes down to a chance surprise celebration by Prince Albert that the Christmas tree becomes a modern staple worldwide. But back to decorating the tree once more, because that is just so fun. A lot of the stuff that we've decorated the tree with is, in modern times, is just that. It's a modern invention. There's very little that remains from the actual dressings that used to be dressed on the tree in ancient times. But there is one piece.
Today, decorated Christmas trees probably look nothing like the ones that started the tradition back in ancient Germany. In fact, only our modern tinsel is a direct descendant of the early draperies. But even though nearly all of our decorations are relatively new, it would be impossible to talk about the festive tree tradition without mentioning them, as each decoration has its own fascinating story to tell.
And those are also amazing Christmas gift ideas, because that's something that gets used every year, right? I know when we decorated our tree, most, if not all of the stuff on our tree had some kind of really deep meaning to us. It was something we made, or something that we picked up from a certain year, or something with a memory behind it. And a lot of people have those. Now, I know a lot of people just go out and buy these random balls of color, these silver balls and these yellow balls. But a lot of people have these very special ornaments, like the ornaments your kids make in school, and just these little funny little, well, I wouldn't even say funny, just sentimental little memory items that we keep and we hang on our tree. Those memories that we have every year that helps to bring back that magic of Christmas. And that's always a good gift idea, as a personalized gift ball for a tree, because again, that's something they're going to hold on to and they're going to keep sacred every single year.
When putting up a Christmas tree, everyone knows that the first task is to put on the lights. Nowadays, there are lots of different twinkling lights for sale, and thanks to the miracle of electricity, they only need to be plugged in and switched on.
Man, is there ever. Have you guys went looking in the stores at some of these lights? There's lights that will do 90 different versions of like running. Like they'll light up in like 90 different ways, right? Pre-programmed lights, you can add music to them. You can buy the ones with pre-made music in them. We used to have one with a Santa. You could hit the button, it would play a different song every single time you hit the button. There's just so many out there, and a color. The variety of colors nowadays is just absolutely insane. Some so bright that it gives people headaches. I know some people that can't handle that really strong blue that's out there every year. One of my favorite colors, but some people it really messes with their eyes. And there's so many lights available to decorate with, and you can go on YouTube and you can find people who have houses that are decorated with these lights set to Christmas music, and you can turn a radio station on in your car, just like listen to the radio station you're listening to now, and you can literally hear the songs come through and watch the lights sync up to the music. It's so much you can do with these Christmas lights. We've come so far from the original, ancient, albeit traditions and big origins of the Christmas lights. And I was wondering the other day, I was looking at Christmas lights running back and forth, chasing each other, the white lights that go blink on and off in a row. So I was watching those, and I was wondering what the point is of the blinking lights. And I always thought it represented like the frost, when you look at like snow in the light, it has that glittery effect, kind of like, the running of the lights, the glittering, the blinking, the reflecting of light off of the snow and the ice therein. So I always thought that was the reason. It was mimicking the ice in areas that couldn't have ice, same reason we use icicles and tinsels and things like that. However, that was an assumption that I made, and that was an invalid assumption. I was wrong in that. Why then do we add lights to our Christmas tree? What is the point of the lights that we use to decorate every year? Is it something that we just do because we've always done it? It's, just another tradition of Christmas. Or does it actually have a deeper meaning? Actually, the latter.
On a clear, frosty winter's night about 400 years ago, a German priest named Martin Luther was meditating outside in a forest when he looked up and saw the bright stars high above the treetops.
If that name sounds familiar to you, you might recognize him better as the father of the Lutheran belief system.
He was so inspired by this beautiful scene that he decided to recreate it for his congregation by attaching candles to a Christmas tree.
So it seems that my theory was only half correct. It seems that they were trying to copy the blinking of something, but it wasn't the blinking that I thought they were trying to copy. I thought they were trying to copy the blinking action that it looks like is occurring when light reflects off of ice and snow. However, it was the blinking of the stars that he was recreating with the candles. Now, I did not know that either. Put a 1 in the chat room if you think I'm just kind of silly that I should have known that already. Put a 2 in the chat room if that also is new information to you. And put a 3 in the chat room if you're still trying to figure out what Christmas even is to begin with.
Using candles as festive tree decorations soon took off all over Germany, but it was extremely tricky, not to mention dangerous, because if a candle fell, it could quickly set the whole tree on fire.
And let me tell you, for those who may have never seen it, a dried evergreen tree goes up like a box of matches.
This became more of a problem when the Christmas tree arrived in England, because each year people would go out and buy bigger and bigger Christmas trees, which were then covered with more and more candles. This was something of a fire risk, to say the very least, and the youngest child or a menial servant would have to sit by the tree with a bucket of water just in case.
I wonder if that was the beginning of seasonal jobs, right? We only need you to stand here for this season, as long as we have this tree and the candles on it to make sure we don't burn ourselves up, you know. What a job. Would you like to have that job? I don't know if it's for me or not, but just the same. Dangerous though. A very dangerous thing, and I've always thought that with the whole ideas of candles on trees. I've always wondered how that come about. Haven't you? Like, why would you put a candle on a dried tree in a house? I've always wondered, like, what is the idea behind that? And now you know the rest of the story.
Thankfully, there's no such danger with our lights nowadays, but there's something quite remarkable and magical about the atmosphere created by the flickering Christmas tree candles.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the history of the Christmas tree candle and the lights on the tree that it led to. How incredibly interesting is that? So we've got the lights on our tree now. Well, we got the tree up. We went out in the forest and we cut the tree. And we've got the tree up and we've got the lights on it. And we've got our little personal ornaments, you know, the little things we've made and hung. And we've got everything so far, but there's one piece. We've got the tinsel ready to go, but there's one piece missing. Well, there's one more thing that we put on the tree every year. And I mentioned them a little bit ago, and that is those little round balls, the silver or different colored balls that we put on the tree, also known as baubles. But where did the baubles originate? Why do we hang those balls on the tree to begin with? What part does that play in the Christmas traditions? What ghost have we overlooked when it comes to baubles? Well, let's see about that ghost of Christmas past and hear what they've got to say about the origins of this tradition.
The first baubles were created by world-famous glassblowers in Bohemia, but instead of hanging on the tree, they had quite a different purpose. After a frantically busy day at the workshop, a group of glassblowers decided to have a competition to see who could blow the biggest bubble. It was thirsty work, and the men drank plenty of beer, and when the prize of even more beer was awarded to the winner, they forgot all about the pretty spheres of glass and left them in a corner of the workshop, where they stayed until one of the men's wives spotted them a few days later. Thinking that they would make beautiful decorations, she took them to sell at the local Christmas market. The glass bubbles were extremely popular and quickly became known as spirit balls because they were advertised as being perfect for warding off the evil eye.
Now, there's a rabbit hole that may be familiar to some people who listen to this show. We recently touched on the evil eye back in the Halloween series, so another surprise I didn't see coming along. I shouldn't be surprised, but you guys know it's always nice to have that surprised feeling, right? But seriously, nevertheless, the baubles were originally created as a joke, as a bet between glass blowers. Hey, hold my beer. I bet you can't do what I can do. Literally a hold my beer moment in this particular situation that led to the creation of these baubles that the wife come along and said, you know what? I bet I can sell these, and sell these she did.
Hung in the entrance to a house, the highly reflective surface would scare off even the most terrible spirits, terrifying them with their own reflection.
So why didn't we think of this back at Halloween? Why dress up why not just hold a bunch of mirrors to our faces and walk around? I guess dressing up in costume is a lot cooler, isn't it? But seriously, they're made to ward off evil spirits, is why you hang the balls on the tree. And maybe that's got something to do with the reason there's so much good magic around Christmas opposed to the darker elements of the world that tend to temporarily fade away, if even for a short period during the holiday season.
However, as soon as Christmas trees started to become popular, they decided to create miniature versions. Unlike the originals that were far too big, these baubles with paper-thin walls were light enough to hang from the tree branches and reflect the glow of the bright Christmas lights.
And cats especially love these glowing baubles on the tree, as anyone who's ever owned a cat at Christmas time knows. They will do their best to scramble up that tree every chance they get and bounce those baubles around or knock them off or slap them with their paw. I've seen cats just do a lot with those baubles, so if you've ever had cats at Christmas, you know the Christmas balls on the tree and the cat are the best of friends and the worst of friends.
All in good time, these sparkling decorations became available all over the world, and in the United States today, even though most modern-day Christmas baubles are rarely made of glass anymore, they're just as eye-catching.
And I've been lucky enough to run across some statistics that were just recently released a week or two ago. And it says Americans are planning to spend $60 on average on decorations for the holiday season in 2020. This is an increase of almost $20 compared to 2010, just 10 years ago, where the price was $41 on average spent on holiday decorations. Almost $100, guys, $60 on average per household spent on holiday decorations. Decorations that we put up without really realizing the origins thereof, unless maybe you've listened to this episode of this show. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, oh my goodness, I cannot believe we have already passed up the top of the first hour. And I'm going to get in trouble if I don't go ahead and take a network break here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to give our network sponsors a chance to get their words in, and we'll be right back after these messages. Don't you touch that dial.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Sex in the city? Nope. Interview with a vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? Tweeze in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the heck? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver, no way, Jose. I remember in the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say we misremembered and call us bat crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela effect flow. Mandela effect in the house. What in the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, "Yay!" American Family Publishers, never heard of them until now. This Mandela effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope, wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution? Cause the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution. Mandela effect in the house. No, I'm not going crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the owl? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy.
This is crazy. Can you believe it? It's December, folks. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's look at Yule, the ghost of Christmas past? If you are and you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. My big top hats off to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den for howling in the holiday season. I guess that makes me the ghost of Christmas yet to come, as I'm here to tell you the lineup for the rest of the Rabbit Hole weekend. I'll return tomorrow night, Friday, December 4th, with another installation of the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. Join me as we take a journey back in time to ancient Mesopotamia. You know what I'm trying to say. We'll go back almost 4,000 years as we explore together theories and many secrets found between two rivers. That's tomorrow night, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then Saturday, December 5th, we'll celebrate St. Nicholas Day, which is actually on the 6th, which makes Saturday, December 5th, St. Nicholas Eve. Get ready to get your shoes out because either St. Nicholas or Krampus is coming to town. And if you get a visit from Krampus, it's really going to cramp your style. So join us Saturday, December 5th, St. Nicholas Eve, as we look at a European tradition of St. Nick. Then we'll end out the weekend right together, Sunday, December 6th, with the Fantastic Fun Show. That's right. Interactive family game night returns for our December holiday Christmas edition. Will My Life DIY stay seated on the throne as the Fantastic Fun King Queen? If she does, it'll be for the 3rd month in a row. Unbelievable evening of fun games, riddles, and puzzles that you can partake in. And you can't win if you don't play. In our very special holiday edition of the Fantastic Fun Show. As we end out the weekend right, Sunday, December 6th, join us at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. That's a look at the rabbit hole ahead this weekend. Looking forward to spending it with you. We now return back to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show with Yule, the ghost of the Christmas past, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking tonight, for those who are just tuning in, about the ghosts of Christmas past, the traditions that we celebrate because it's just that, it's tradition. The things we do every year without thinking about them but have no idea where the origins of these ideas actually came from. And that's what we're exploring tonight. So far we've explored the Christmas tree, the beginnings of Yule and Yuletide, the beginnings of Christmas, how that has morphed so far into a lot of the decorations that we put onto the trees, where these ideas come from, why the candy cane is so important. We've covered a lot in the first half, and we've only begun to scratch the surface. There's still so much more about Christmas that is so well traditionalized, yet unknown as of the beginnings here in modern times. And this is no different. See, in the old times, Christmas wasn't celebrated everywhere, and this caused a bit of a conflict. It wasn't always rainbows and candy canes, if you will, in this case. But things got a little dicey there for a minute.
By the 17th century, whilst travel was beginning to make the world a significantly smaller place, Christmas wasn't universally celebrated. In Britain, Oliver Cromwell had started a civil war and overthrown the monarchy to rule instead from 1653 to 1658. He and his Roundheads were Puritans, and they believed that Christmas had become so irreligious it needed to be banned.
That's right, folks. Even the talk of canceling Christmas or banning Christmas is not even a new concept. This is an argument that came up in the beginning, even so much so that it almost ended up not being a celebrated tradition at all, because they almost banned it in England, right? How interesting is that?
Despite the public riots, Cromwell was determined to make a stand, and he first attacked the much-beloved Christmas pudding. The making of the seasonal delicacy was punishable by a new law, and offenders could find themselves thrown into prison.
Could you imagine explaining that to your cellmate? What are you in for? I robbed a bank. What are you in for? I made pudding. That's it. I made some Christmas pudding. I don't think that would go over as well, right? Not the easiest of conversations, right? That would be really awkward, huh?
The general public spotted a loophole and imported their puddings ready-made from France and carried on undeterred. But when it came to Christmas pies, Cromwell had learnt from the experience and outlawed the making and eating of this festive treat.
And of course, a holiday based on a feast season, you gotta expect food to come up more than once, right? But pies were different than what we call a pie today.
In Cromwell's day, Christmas pie was filled with fruit, shredded pork, beef and chicken. It was often baked in the shape of a manger, with a pastry model of the baby Jesus added to the top, and Cromwell was incensed at such heresy. However, the English didn't want to give up this much-loved tradition, so with a couple of minor changes, they managed to keep it without breaking the law. Instead of being shaped like a manger, the pastries were made round. Baby Jesus was abandoned altogether, and the name was changed to mincemeat pie because of the mincemeat that it contained.
And for those who have heard of mincemeat pie but may be unaware of why it's connected to the Christmas holiday or what it's even about, there you go, ladies and gentlemen, the origins and the reason that some people enjoy mincemeat pie at the Christmas season.
Today, this wonderful food contains nothing but sweet fruits, and it's claimed that if you make a wish when you bite into your first mince pie at the beginning of Christmas, it'll come true.
And yet another theme that we find so much across this holiday season is that hope, right? That wishes coming true. And we find that a lot in the Christmas stories and Christmas movies, don't we? These wishes that magically come true by ways that would in any other time just wouldn't happen, right? And this is that magic of Christmas, isn't it? That magic of Christmas we talk about all the time. So make sure that you make a wish when you take the first bite of your first mincemeat pie of the holiday season. However, this, like all things when it come with good luck, comes with a bit of a caveat.
But make sure you don't refuse the first mince pie that you're offered, as this would bring bad luck for the year ahead.
So between people stirring the oatmeal the wrong way and refusing the mince pie, I need you guys to stop doing that this year because we've had enough of craziness. We've had 2020. So I need you guys to go back to the old traditions of the good luck because you're really messing us up with these new ignoring of the traditions and doing them the wrong way. Yeah. Have you looked around lately? But in all seriousness, there's so much fun with the holiday season, right? So many little things about the season that we just take for granted. We just do it because we do it, because it's tradition and nothing more. We have no second replication or second thought or recollection, not replication, second recollection as to why any of this is actually done. What are we actually celebrating? What are we actually reenacting when we carry on these Christmas and Yuletide traditions? Another well-known and loved tradition, especially here in America, is the Christmas movies and the Christmas stories, like the Night Before Christmas, right? Where do these have their origins, these Christmas stories? Because we all love the stories that come along with the Christmas holiday, but where do some of them have their origins at?
An American professor's light-hearted children's Christmas poem certainly made sure that Santa Claus became more lovable than ever.
And there's a reason I'm not really going to touch on the Santa Claus character in this particular episode. I've got a whole nother episode planned for that particular character.
When Clement Seymour wrote A Visit from St. Nicholas, often better known as The Night Before Christmas, in 1822, not only did he use the idea of a sack full of presents from the original Father Christmas and the idea of throwing the gifts down the chimney from the real St. Nick, but he also created a homeland for Santa amongst the snowy wastes of Lapland, deep in the heart of the Arctic Circle.
Okay, I call shenanigans right here. This is a Mandela effect for me, without question, because I remember that the North Pole is where Santa Claus lived, and I remember there being an ice patch, a large ice patch in land at the North Pole. I know a lot of you will look at the map and go, "You're crazy, you're silly, look, there's nothing here." I know there's nothing here now, but the memory that I have was a large ice cap or a amount of land at the top of the world where Santa, the elves, and the reindeer all lived. It wasn't in Lapland, which is where Santa still resides to this day. It's not in Lapland, Finland, I believe it is, but it is in the North Pole, the literal North Pole, that I remember Santa Claus residing. How about you guys? Is that a Mandela effect for you guys?
However, the part of the poem that really added an extra magical dimension to the legend of Santa was a mode of transportation that would inspire the imagination of generations to come.
And of course, we all are very much aware of Santa's favorite mode of travel indeed.
Here you see beautiful reindeer in their natural environment, and for more, there was no better way for Santa Claus to travel on Christmas Eve than by sleigh and a team of 8 magical flying reindeer.
Oh, there's Dasher and Dancer and Donner and Vixen. Yeah, you guys know the reindeer team that hangs out with old Santa Claus, right?
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donder and Blitzen.
Yeah, that's the ones. What she just said.
Were the ones responsible for getting Santa all around the world. But today there's one more magical reindeer who's more popular than all of the others put together.
Do you recall the most famous reindeer of them all?
His name is, of course, Rudolph, and although he didn't come along until 1939, Christmas just wouldn't be the same without children going to bed and dreaming about Santa's sleigh and a shiny red-nosed reindeer flying through the starry sky.
And I know as a kid I always wondered how the reindeer could fly. Like, what magic, what was different about these reindeer that could make them fly? It's just, I always found it so fascinating, the whole reindeer and pulling the sleigh across the sky. And, you know, again, that magical element of Christmas, right? Yet another tradition that we do all the time, every year, every season, you go and you get a box of Christmas cards, right? But where did this originate from?
Take a look at this extraordinary selection of early Christmas cards showing pictures of Santa Claus, and you might even find it difficult to recognize him. Not only is he dressed in unfamiliar coloured, strange clothing, but in some pictures he looks rather frightening as well.
For a time, Santa wasn't always the cheery fat man that we see today. As a matter of fact, Christmas had a bit of a horror overtone to it at certain periods in history, but we aren't there yet, and we may or may not get to that tonight. If not, then I've got a whole episode about that also coming up this season too. But nevertheless, where did the Christmas card tradition get its beginnings?
This tradition was actually created in Britain just a few years after Moore's wonderful poem was published. In those days, you were expected to write letters to all of your family and friends at Christmas time. But because this tended to take a lot of effort, people used to consider it something of a chore. One such man, a children's book publisher by the name of Henry Cole, had a brilliant idea for getting out of his letter-writing duties. He commissioned an artist to paint a card with his picture and the message, "A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year," which he had printed and sent to all his friends and family. Even though it took a while for this idea to catch on commercially, in the United States today, more than 2 billion cards are sent out each year.
And I totally sympathize with this guy, right? Anybody who's ever done an extended amount of writing knows what kind of torture that is on the hand. The cramps and just holding the pencil and writing and over and over and over doing the same thing. Anybody who's done a lot of writing, you truly understand how annoying and painfully aggravating that can be. So this guy here he was slick, right? He come up with one picture that he could replicate over and over and over and send out to everybody he knew. This was truly an innovative idea of the time. And what amazingness it is built into today, right? Today, Christmas cards have become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's even alive and well still in 2020.
Decorated with jokes, the nativity, festive traditions, or beautiful winter scenes, there's still nothing like receiving your first Christmas card to get you in the holiday spirit, especially if you open the envelope and you're greeted by a jolly, round-bellied, red-coated, white-bearded, modern-day Santa Claus.
But let's be honest, whether it's got the big guy in the red suit on the front, or just a couple words like Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, or if it's just, maybe a picture of your friend and their family, just the fact that they thought of you at that time of year is enough to really make you feel special, isn't it? When you go to the mailbox and you get that special card out just for you that somebody's taken the time to actually sit down and make and hopefully hand print something on, and just it really does add another element of joy to the season, doesn't it? Just to know that somebody thought enough about you to send you something that you were unaware of. I think that is really one of the wonderful things about this season. And if you know somebody that you think may not have a lot of family around, or maybe struggling this holiday season, get some Christmas cards. Just get a box of Christmas cards and write out a nice little message on them, or just sign your name even, and hand them to the people that may actually end up not have family or really even get a Christmas card. At least you can ensure that they're going to get one Christmas card this year, even if that is from you. That is one thing we can do to help cheer up everybody this holiday season, because everybody deserves to enjoy the wonder and the magic and the joy that is within this holiday. And it's up to each one of us to pay forward and make it a joyous occasion for everyone else. And who better to give joy, of course, than the jolly elf himself, the Santa Claus. And like I said, I'm not going to touch on the character too much tonight. We're all very well of Santa Claus, and AJ has a show coming up on Saturday about Santa Claus, so make sure you guys check that out on Saturday. And I don't want to ruin too much before he gets to that information. And like I said, we've got another show built on that information later on this season, so we're going to skip that. But where does the red and white jacket that the fat man wears comes from? Where does Santa Claus' iconic colors come from? Well, this actually may really surprise you, because when I found out, I was actually quite mind blown. You would be surprised how good marketing can really be if used correctly. Check this out.
Santa's red coat with white fur trim has an interesting origin, because if it hadn't been for an advertising campaign in the 1930s, this familiar worldwide image of the gift-giving legend might never have developed.
Poor guy would have been stuck wearing just the suspenders, and nobody wants that, especially Mrs. Claus. I'm just kidding.
In America, Coca-Cola launched a campaign for Christmas in 1931 that featured a heartwarming Santa Claus dressed from head to toe in red and white, colours that were inspired by the drinks company's own logo. This wholesome, friendly character soon struck a chord with families in every state, and our modern-day image of Santa was born. And he still appears each Christmas time on Coca-Cola bottles all around the world.
Which is kind of funny, because when I think of Coca-Cola at Christmas now, I think of the Coca-Cola polar bears, right? Don't you guys? I thought those were just the cutest things ever. But they're actually also responsible, Coca-Cola that is also responsible for the creation of the big red and white suit that the man, or the coat that the man that flies around and gives presents every year actually wears. How interesting is that? It's all due to nothing more than a marketing campaign. Which reminds me, I could really go for some eggnog right now, right? Speaking of eggnog, where did eggnog come from? Anybody know? That's a really good question. Maybe we should explore that, ladies and gentlemen. Where does eggnog come from? In the meantime, I'm gonna go get me a glass of eggnog.
Today, Christmas just wouldn't be the same without a frothy cup of eggnog to toast the health of friends and relations and enjoy the delights of the season. Although its roots can be traced back to colonial America, where because of the cream, milk, sugar, beaten eggs and alcohol, it was a rich and spicy wintertime warmer, it did take until the 1800s before it became a real festive favourite. Even the first American president, George Washington, came up with his own very individual recipe for eggnog that called for whiskey, rum and sherry all at the same time. Nowadays, only one type of spirit is usually added, but this hasn't made the drink any less popular with Christmas revellers.
And we're back, and I assure you the eggnog that we have here is the non-spirited, non-alcoholic version. I have drank the alcoholic versions, and personally, rum is what I do believe is what's used normally in the eggnog mixtures nowadays, and some good spiced rum and eggnog. Not gonna lie, that it's not a bad flavor. However, this is a family-friendly show, and I do not condone the drinking of alcohol at all times, you know. Anyway, that aside, before I dig myself into a deep hole here, we're going to go ahead and... sorry about that. Had to get a little sip of this sweet eggnog here, and we're going to continue on talking about the Christmas traditions. Next up are some traditions that are going to be maybe kind of obscure to some of you. Others may know exactly what I am talking about. What we're about to present next, I was really surprised because I was talking to My Life DIY just last night, as a matter of fact, about different traditions that each household holds, because, you know, as we know, there's across families, there's small little intricacies that are done usually just within that family, but not a lot of other families practice them. And I was asking My Life DIY about that, and she was telling me that she uses these, and these are usually found in the UK around Christmas time. What am I talking about? Well, I don't want to give it away just yet. Maybe you guys can figure out by the description.
During a trip to Paris, France, an Englishman by the name of Tom Smith encountered the French bonbon, a candy-sugared treat wrapped in brightly coloured twists of paper. Although nowadays this doesn't sound anything special, back then, because English sweets were always sold loose from jars, Tom Smith was inspired. So much so, in fact, that when he returned home, he started to make the earliest by enclosing a piece of candy in paper with twisted ends.
Make the earliest what? Does anybody have any idea what this is going to become? This is a tradition that is just a well-known tradition across the UK, and like I said, there's some people here in America apparently that know this tradition too. But this is something that is a lot of kids do on Christmas, as well as adults. You guys think you know what it is? Yeah, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat room if you think you know what we're talking about, along with the name of what this item is. Put a 2 in the chat room if you really don't know what this particular tradition is, and put a 3 in the chat room if you're still scratching your head wondering what in the world Christmas is to begin with.
And because he was also a big fan of Chinese fortune cookies, each one also contained a slip of paper with a motto or saying on it. Tom Smith's Christmas bonbons were very popular, especially with the children, but he still felt that there was something missing. On a winter's evening, as he was sitting by his fireside, A crackling, spitting log inspired him further.
Now, I just must point out right here that we've come full circle back to the Yule log burning in the fire being an inspiration for the next step in Mr. Smith's invention. The bonbon with something inside. But it's now about to become something that we would recognize, at least some people would recognize today, because of this Yule log, this crackling, popping Yule log. So I think it's so funny that we've come full circle back around to the beginning of the episode with the Yule log here in this invention of this semi-Christmas tradition in some countries. Or I should say this obscure Christmas tradition, more obscure Christmas tradition. Just play the clip, Jerry.
And from then on, every bonbon that he created made a bang, just like the crackling logs when they were pulled, which is where the name cracker came from.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Christmas cracker, like he said, is a bonbon with a little joke or something in it, and when you pull the two ends of the wrapper, it pops like a bonfire, like a Yule log. So, yeah, that is the Christmas cracker, and I was surprised that My Life DIY actually brought those up, let alone knew what they were, because, like I said, this is more of a British tradition than a well-known English or American tradition, I should say. And I've never even got my hands on a cracker, so I'm going to see if I can't get my hands on one this year. Maybe I can get My Life to send me one just so I can pop open a cracker for the first time. I would love to pop open a Christmas cracker on Christmas Day. Would that not be cool, guys? I don't know. I've never done it. I couldn't tell you if it would be or not, could I?
This extra surprise element was just what his invention needed, and today there's still no sign of people getting bored of this Victorian gentleman's creation. And if anything, since the candies were replaced by small gifts and the mottos with very corny jokes, they've become more popular than ever.
And like I said, this is a common tradition in the UK and apparently some American homes too, but yet a more obscure tradition just the same. And there's yet another more obscure Christmas tradition we're going to touch on right now.
Another addition to the cracker was the brightly coloured paper hats shaped like crowns. These are a throwback to the wild parties that happened on Twelfth Night.
Again, who here has ever heard of Twelfth Night? That also is a new thing to me. And although it sounds self-explanatory, let us not assume that it is. So please tell us, what is Twelfth Night?
The official end of the 12 days of Christmas, celebrated on the 6th of January.
Okay, good. I was right about that one. So 12th night is the end of the 12 days of Christmas, and I'm assuming that these 12 days start on Christmas Day, the 25th, not prior to Christmas, but starting on Christmas and ending on January 6th.
William Shakespeare's famous play of the same name was first performed on Twelfth Night for Queen Elizabeth I. But today the day is only marked because it's when we take the Christmas decorations down and put them away for the following year.
Did you know that that's the reason that that particular day is when it's accepted that that's the day to take down decorations and put them away? Once again, I had no idea that that was the origin of January 6th being an important date. But to the older generations, the ancients, if you will, and the period in which we're talking about now, I don't remember what period we're in at this point. I've got lost. I think we're at Queen Elizabeth. But anyway, the period we're talking about now, it was much different. It was actually a very wild, raucous, and exciting party that they had.
There was a time, particularly in Old England, when Twelfth Night was actually a far more important festival than Christmas itself. A great party would be held, with a man and a woman chosen to be crowned as king and queen for the evening. And of course, this is where the tradition of the paper crowns we now find in our crackers comes from. Although nowadays these cracker crowns have no such meaning, even the grumpiest of relation won't be able to resist joining in the Christmas spirit, wearing a paper hat on their head.
Wow, not only do I get a cracker with a gift, but it also comes with a crown in it. So I can literally be King Jerry, like I was when I won the first Fantastic Fun show, right? Don't forget, guys, that's coming up this Sunday, by the way. But that, nevertheless, a crown in my cracker, Christmas cracker, that's pretty awesome. I gotta say, that's pretty neat. I don't know why that wouldn't catch on in America, right? Everybody wants to feel like a king for a day. Feeling like a king also, that's what happens when you get your belly full, right? When you have a big feast. And one of the big feast items at Christmas, just like at Thanksgiving, is again more turkey. Because, during this time of year, for some reason, you just can't get enough turkey, right? But where does the origins of the Christmas turkey or the Christmas bird begin? Where does it have its origins in the Christmas feast and the Christmas holiday, the Yuletide holiday, if you will?
In America, the turkey is more commonly associated with Thanksgiving, but its connection with Christmas again dates back to Victorian England. For the common man, the Christmas meal usually featured a goose, but for the aristocracy, such delicacies as peacock or swan would be more likely to be served. Queen Victoria, however, evidently preferred to see these beautiful birds gracing her parks and gardens, and instead turned to the more humble turkey when her not inconsiderable family gathered around the royal Christmas table. As with the decorated Christmas tree, the newspapers of the day published pictures of the Queen and her family settling down to a festive feast of turkey. And of course, the nation followed suit.
So not only was the Queen responsible for the Christmas tree catching on around the world, but also the turkey dinner being a thing instead of other birds and other meats, because she liked the birds in her garden instead of on the dinner table. So this also has its roots in yet an odd place. The fact that the Queen picked it up and was pictured doing these things, it became a worldwide phenomenon, just like the Christmas tree. And just like the other marketing, how interesting marketing once again has its hand in things, because remember, the red and white jacket of Santa Claus comes from the Coca-Cola marketing. So marketing, it sounds like, has had a lot to do with Christmas long before the marketing of modern day gift giving and what it has become in modern times, right?
One of the most important of all Christmas ideas also dates from this time, and again it was Victorian London that was responsible for being inspirational, and on this occasion through the great writer Charles Dickens.
And we'll be hearing more from Mr. Charles Dickens later on this season in further episodes that we have planned.
People the world over dream of a white Christmas, whether they live in the snowy wastes of the Arctic or in equatorial sunshine. They even sing about it. And A Christmas Carol, the best-loved seasonal novel of all by Charles Dickens, has certainly played its part in this.
I'm very thankful, as living in the mountains, we definitely have a white Christmas most years, and this year looks like it's shaping up to be no different. So I am one of the blessed, lucky ones that do have the honor and chance of living in an area that has a white Christmas. But how was Dickens responsible for creating this legend, this want of white Christmas, this idea of the white Christmas? How was he responsible for this?
Vivid descriptions of snowy streets come from memories of Dickens' own childhood, because for the first 7 years of his life, every Christmas was white. Add to this Clement Seymour's poem and stories of Santa Claus in Lapland, and you begin to see how the snowy Christmas picture has evolved. And what's more, it's continuing to do so.
And we're about to wrap up here, guys, but before we do, we've got one more character of Christmas to talk about, a recent character, if you will.
Even in America, Frosty the lovable snowman wasn't actually created until relatively recently in 1959, and we can only look forward to the new snowy delights that Christmas future might bring.
And the last and most wonderful thing about Christmas, and that's the fact that we can dream and hope and look forward to yet another year of amazement and wonder. I love Christmas, guys, one of my favorite seasons, and I don't know about you guys, but I've learned quite a bit tonight. I have really expanded my knowledge base, I've expanded my mind, and I hope I can at least say that I've helped to do the same for you guys. But what do you guys think? Did you know a lot of these Christmas origins of the things that we forget about, that we have taken for granted over the years? There's so many traditions, like I've said time and time again tonight, and I love tradition. I want to stick to tradition and the old-fashioned traditions of Christmas that, repeat the Christmases that we grew up with. The magic of the Christmas when we were kids. That's what I kind of want to capture this year in every holiday season, of course. But that's really what I'm after, is an old-fashioned Christmas, a classic Christmas. But did you know the old-fashioned roots and origins of a lot of the things that we celebrate? A lot of the ghosts of Christmas past, the stories that we never get to hear, why we do some of the things that we do, and why we celebrate things in some of the ways that we celebrate. I hope tonight you've been able to expand your knowledge base on Christmas and the Christmas elements, not necessarily the Christmas holiday, though we've touched a lot on it, but the elements of Christmas. And if so, please, I beg of you, share with your friends, family, your family's friends, pets, your pets, everything. Pets love us, by the way. But seriously, please do share us out and let people know that we're here, because we are a grassroots movement here at the Ripon Rabbit Hole and Ripon Common Sense Radio. And that would be the best Christmas gift that you could give us to help us out, is give us some shares, give us some likes, get our name out there, and help people know that we're over here talking about the wonders and amazement of reality, ladies and gentlemen. And in the end, no matter whether it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, or how a bauble was created on the tree, whether you believe it or not, in the end, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you'll be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. I appreciate everybody joining us for our look at Yule and the ghost of Christmas past. I hope everybody has been able to learn a little something. I know I've learned a lot of something tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. This, of course, is the last episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for this week. But don't you worry, the den may be closing, but the weekend fun has only just begun. That's right. Make sure you guys come back Friday through Sunday for our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit and the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show. That's right. This week he's going to be talking about some really fun topics. That's right. Check this out on Friday. He's going to be talking about Mesopotamia. I love Mesopotamia, guys. The Sumerians, the Babylonians. There's so much about that we talk about in this show so often. So I cannot wait once again to hear what AJ's got to say about that topic at Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. Then on Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, he's going to take on Sankt Nikolaus. Get your shoes ready, ladies and gentlemen. Sankt Nikolaus is coming to fill them up. He'll explain everything on Saturday, and I promise it's definitely a tradition. If you haven't heard of it, you want to, and if you have heard of it, get your shoes ready. Ladies and gentlemen, then on Sunday, and by the way, I promise not much walking will be involved. On Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, the Fantastic Fun Show. That's right. My Life DIY will be defending her crown again for the second time. That's right. The second-time reigning champion, Queen DIY, My Life DIY, I'm sorry, is gonna have a chance to go for the third round, the first time ever if she pulls this off. Or will CSFL, the previous king that she knocked off the throne, come back and reclaim his position? Or will one of you take the throne for yourself? That's right. If you want to challenge any of these contestants, make sure you drop by Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, on the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show for the most fun you can have on radio. That's right, the Fantastic Fun Show. And let me tell you, I absolutely love it. It is an interactive game show where the points do matter, and at the end of the game, a king or queen is crowned. So you will know the winner by the end of the game. And for the month following, they will reign on the throne as the Fantastic Fun King or Fantastic Fun King Queen, whatever the case may be. And guys, that is going to round out the weekend here on Ripon Common Sense Radio and the RiponRabbitHole.com. And speaking of the RiponRabbitHole.com, that is my absolute favorite place to hang out lately. That is RiponRabbitHole.com. That's right. Over at the RiponRabbitHole.com, you're going to find the 24/7 VIP Lounge. That is my favorite place to hang out here in the den. That's right. We go over there and hang out with the Backstage group and all of you who would love to join us, because for you guys, the conversation's in here, but for the Ripon Rabbits, the conversation is only just beginning, and we converse late into the night and early into the morning. So we will be there if you would like to come by and hang out with us and join us for some more conversation on the Christmas traditions. Maybe you guys know something I didn't know, and something we can add to next year's show, or maybe another show this season, because I am always open to learn something new. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of fun coming up this weekend, and I personally will be back to kick off the brand new weekend again next Wednesday, December 9th, I believe it is, 2020. And we're going to be talking, well, it's a surprise. I'm not sure exactly what show we've got coming up for that, but I guarantee you it's something you're not going to want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jerry Hicks, and on behalf of Walt House, Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, everybody at Ripon Common Sense Radio, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. Happy holidays, ladies and gentlemen, and remember, until next time, stay awake, but dare to dream. Thanks for being here, everybody. Good night. Ow! Yeah!
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. a sinner? Is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland